welcome to Chic Conviction CCM Brotherhood. I'm Melrose.
And I'm Axxel, and today we're going to be talking to you guys about mindset. And we have 3 questions that we want to ask you.
What is your ultimate purpose in the pursuit of growth? What areas do you think God wants you to grow in and wants to keep you constant? What is constant about God? So there are 2 different types of mindset, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
A fixed mindset is one that does not change or adapt to new challenges unless they are forced to. It is one that avoids effort as much as possible and often defines success as being validated by the current abilities and skills that are already possessed. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is one that adapts to new challenges. It finds creative and often obscure ways of learning new skills. It keeps motivation high and understands that success can only be expected with the amount of effort that has been put into achieving it.
So can you be both, have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset?
Yeah, it actually takes a lot of discipline to hold on to the growth mindset. It's possible to slip into harvesting pleasure from past successes, and we can easily take credit for what God has accomplished in us and through us, and even be lured or seduced into seeking validation elsewhere.
So basically, if people praise me, I can accidentally take credit for it. That's crazy that something positive can actually hinder our growth.
Yeah, actually, before we look at that, I'd like to show you guys a chart that helps you see the different types of attitudes that both mindsets exhibit when receiving praise. It's actually very important that we keep in mind that both mindsets respond differently according to the kind of praise that they're receiving, whether that be their natural given talents or the amount of effort that they put into cultivating a skill.
So when we look at the word, can you think of any examples of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset?
Well, King Saul was actually a very good example of the fixed mindset. God appointed Saul to be the first king of Israel. The first thing that started to provoke Saul into a fixed mindset was the amount of praise that David was receiving. As you all know, King David. Do they know who King David is?
Do you know?
I don't know. What are you doing, man? Christian, you don't know David? God's best friend.
The Psalm of David.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we all know David, who was really close to God. He was appointed to be king. He wrote all the Psalms. You guys know David.
A lot of people know about King David, but they don't really know much about his predecessor, King Saul. King Saul was actually a man whose heart was poisoned by the praise that the people were giving to David.
Saulito.
Cuando Salito fue...
Cuando Saulito was a king.
When Saul was king, there was a time when David and Saul both fought in a war alongside each other. The people of Israel were singing praises to David, saying David had killed 10,000 men. And Saul saw this as a threat because he had only killed 1,000. It was at this point when he began to feel consumed by his own sin. Once he began to see David as a threat instead of an opportunity for God to display his power, he began to place a barrier between himself and God. Once Saul placed a barrier between his own heart and God, it is at this point where he began to slip into the fixed mindset. He allowed his heart to become contaminated, and it only got worse from this point on. His spirit became so poor that he began to throw swords at David. Taking an innocent person's life was no longer out of the question. So Jonathan, who was Saul's son and David's best friend, warned David to leave the city because his dad was trying to kill him. It's important to keep in mind that Saul was given the responsibility of keeping Israel holy, but his need for praise choked that responsibility. So like you said, David was already anointed to be king. So he left the city like Jonathan warned him to, and he ran away to the city of Adullam, which in Hebrew means justice for the people. David understood that his purpose for being king was to keep Israel holy and to bring justice to the people. His desire to please God outshined all of the praise that the people were giving him and the persecution that he was receiving from Saul. David didn't allow the praise of the people or the pain of persecution to define him. And it's in this cave where he grows spiritually and begins to strategize.
I think it's interesting also when we look at David and we read all of the Psalms and his relationship with God, even though he was a sinner, even though he always made mistakes, even though he did so many things that any normal person would feel guilty and would kind of like seclude themselves and not seek a relationship with God because they felt not good enough. He still kind of triumphed over that, and his pursuit of God and his desire to be with God was kind of like, it overpowered any of that. And so I love that he had that growth mindset, that no matter how many mistakes he made or where his life was at or what it looked like, he still wanted to have that closeness with God. And I love the verse Psalm 51:10 where it says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me."
It's so true that you say that, because we have to constantly be on guard, because Jesus himself said, strive to enter through the narrow gate, for all of life is war. Going back to the 3 questions that we asked in the beginning, our ultimate purpose then is to treasure God above all else. In Ecclesiastes 12:13 it says, the conclusion of the law is to fear him and keep his commandments.
And the answer to the second question, what areas do we think that God wants us to grow in? I think it's just simply loving him and going after his heart. So he wants us to grow in loving him with all of our heart, loving him with all of our strength, which leads us to the second part of the question, which areas do you think God wants you to keep constant? And I think it's also always focusing on him, always focusing on serving him in everything that you do, whether you're at school or you're at work or you're with friends. Think about in everything that you do that you're doing it for him.
So we need to ask ourselves again, what is constant about God? God is holy, he's good and just, not just good. He's forgiving, a supplier of all our needs, and in control of every single little aspect of our lives. But then let our lives be marked by a continual pursuit of knowing more about him. And every threat to the central worship, whether it be money, pain and pleasure, praise, and especially our own sin, must be met with an intentional challenge. These are some verses to keep in mind to help you with these threats. And I want to close with this thought that comes from the verse Galatians 6:14. And it says that if we want to be proud of something, let us be proud of the cross. And may the cross be seen as the foundation for every opportunity that we have to grow.
Thank you so much for watching CCM Brotherhood. Stay tuned every first Saturday of the month for a new video. Make sure to share with friends and family and let them know we're going to be having more content in Spanish as well, as far as our devotionals and some of our videos. Also tune in to our new video where me and Lex will be talking about how to worship God through social media. And also find us on chicconviction.com and across all our social media platforms at Chic Conviction. Bye! We'll see you next time.